guys, it's Tweak here from the Mulligan, and today I wanted to have a chat about the Aether Revolt pre-release I attended. Now, Aether Revolt come out, well, the pre-release weekend was last weekend. We've got the set launching this weekend, which is pretty exciting. I went to my local game store and attended the Aether Revolt pre-release. So it comes with one of these, very similar to the Kaladesh one. You know, you get your regular goodies inside, so little divider, sticker, little bit of theme there for you, as well as a little bit of advice on how to build a good sealed deck. So as you can see, I did have some quality cards to choose from. Paradox Engine, which I'm really excited about, and I do want to build around. And I also got Metallic Mimic, which probably isn't quite as good, but still a nice card. Now, for my pre-release, I built two decks. They share about 3 cards between them, but I found that I enjoyed my second deck a lot more than my first one. So I'll just clear this board real quick. We'll get all this stuff out of the way, and I'll go through the first deck I tried with you. Now, it's probably the better deck out of the two, maybe, but it's not the style of play I enjoy, so I stopped running it after my first round. So I opened up an Inventor's Fair, which is great for artifact sort of themed decks, which is what I was going for. Ended up in Plains, Mountains, so nice red-white theme there. This one's out of the way. So the first part of my plan sort of revolved around using the new Revolt mechanic and a flicker effect. So for starters, we've got Aether Geode Miner, and Aether Geode Miner is a 3/1 for 2, a colorless and a white. Whenever it attacks, you get 2 energy, and then you can pay 2 energy, exile the miner, then return to the battlefield under its owner's control. Now this is great for sort of risky players where you think they might block. You can sort of test the field to see what happens, and then if they do block, flicker this guy in and out. He's nice and safe. It also allows you to attack and then have it back as a defender. You won't deal any damage, but if you've got effects that trigger on attack, this is also a good card. But the primary means of why it's in here is so that we get that creature leaving the battlefield effect, which helps support the following cards in here. So Felidar Guardian also helps with this theme. He has, when he enters the battlefield, you may exile another target permanent you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. It's a 1/4 for 4, 3 colorless and a 1. I've also got Restoration Specialist, who's trying to support the vehicles or artifact theme that I've got in the deck. He's a 2/1 for 2, a colorless and a white. Has for 1 white, sacrifice, return up to 1 target artifact and up to 1 target enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. So nice utility there, getting 2 cards for 1. I've also got Deadeye Harpooner. So when he enters the battlefield, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, destroy target tap creature an opponent controls. Now I was trying to clear away the opponent's bomb and then just swing through with vehicles. That was the sort of game plan. And then I've also got Countless Gears Renegade, which is another Revolt one. So it's a 2/2 for 2, colorless and a white. Has Revolt. When Countless Gears Renegade enters the battlefield, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, create a 1/1 colorless servo. So I was hoping to flicker that Aether Geode Miner, get this guy out, and get a free servo. So supporting my vehicles theme here, I've got Veteran Motorist. So it has that scry ability. Was also looking to try and trigger that scry multiple times off of the Felidar Guardian. Veteran Motorist is a 3/1 for 2 for a red and a white. When he enters the battlefield, scry 2. And then when Veteran Motorist crews a vehicle, that vehicle gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. So nice little buff there. We've also got Aerial Modification. Now this is a new card with Aether Revolt. It's a 5 cost, so it's pretty pricey. But for 4 colorless and a white, you can enchant a creature or a vehicle. Now don't get hung up on vehicles, you can apply these to creatures as well. As long as the enchanted permanent is a vehicle, it's a creature in addition to its other types, so that's very handy on our vehicles. But again, don't forget that you can apply this to creatures Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and flying until end of turn. So if you've got vehicles out, great. You'll be able to make them bigger and more aggressive. But if you don't forget you can apply it to any one of your creatures. And making something a 2, a +2/+2 and a flyer, very, very good. Next up, I've got Mobile Garrison. Now this is one of the creatures I was trying to support with Veteran Motorist and Aerial Modification. It's an artifact vehicle for 3 colorless. It's a 3/4. When it attacks, untap another target artifact or creature you control, has crew 2. So I was hoping to drop this after one of my 2 drops and then be able to crew it immediately, and then untap the thing that I crewed it with using its ability there. Next I've got just a quality card in Aerial Responder. He's a 2/3 for 3, colorless and 2 white, has flying, vigilance and lifelink. So just in case someone else in my draft pod decided to go the flying sort of way, I had this guy in there just to sort of make sure that I can stay in the game against flyers. I've also got Consulate Dreadnought. So this is a 1-drop, it's crew 6 and it's a 7/11. So very powerful creature. What I was sort of looking at doing with this card was either throwing it out early and then on say turn 3 or 4 after I dropped a few smaller creatures, crewing it and just being aggressive, or getting that aerial modification on it hopefully in turn 5 and then being able to swing with a 9/13 flyer, which would be pretty devastating. Now I've just got Welder Automaton in there. He's a 2/1 for 2. Has pay 4, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So if I needed to close the game out, I had this guy in there just to get in that last sort of damage. I've got the Adradra Express. It's a 5-drop, 8/6, has Menace and crew 4. Now I really like the Menace mechanic because it really makes it a bit more harder on your opponent. Also forces your opponent to throw more creatures in front of your big creatures, which is very nice. I've got Morphist Doorbuster. He's a 4/2 for 4, 3 colorless and a red. When he enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy. Whenever he attacks, you can pay 1. If you do, target creature can't block this turn. So sort of not quite as good Menace mechanic in there, in that they will still have to leave 2 blockers up. You just get to pick which one you tap down, but it will cost you an energy. Nice that you get to use it twice just off of him though. I was hoping to use this in combo with a Menace creature, that way they would have to think about leaving 3 creatures up just to block 1 creature. Next up we've got Sweatworks Brawler, new card from Aether Revolt. He's a 4-drop 3/3, 3 colorless and a red. He has Improvise, so artifacts can help cast this spell. Each artifact you tap after you've done activating mana abilities pays for 1. So if I needed to get him out and I had any of my vehicles on the field, especially the big fella, the 1-drop Consulate Dreadnought, I could use that early just to, along with this Improvise mechanic, to get this guy out. Now I've got an array of support cards here to try and throw some combat tricks in there, take my opponent by surprise. So Precise Strike, it's a 1-drop, 1 red, happens at instant speed, target creature gets +1/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. And that first strike really makes it, especially when you're getting a similar matchup. And the +1/+0 just lets you punch above your weight a little bit. Next up, I've got Spire Side Infiltrator. He's a 3/2 for 3, 2 colorless and a red. Whenever Spire Side Infiltrator becomes tapped, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. So nice crew alongside the crew mechanic there. Got another Precise Strike. Built to last, target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If it's an artifact creature, it gains indestructible until end of turn. So I was hoping to use that on the vehicles to keep them alive in case they got targeted by removal effects. Could also be used on the Automaton if I wanted to be aggressive in that sort of way. And then I've also got 2 Caught in the Brights. It's a 3-drop, new card from Aether Revolt, 2 colorless and a white. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature can't attack or block. When a vehicle you control attacks, exile enchanted creature. So this is nice in that you stop their sort of game plan, and then if they've still got a mechanic that'll help them even though I can't attack or block, maybe something that helps with energy generation or a tap effect, you can kill that by crewing into one of your vehicles and getting aggressive in there. So this was the first deck that I built. I went 1-2 in some very close games. Didn't pilot it quite as well as I probably could have, but I did have a bit of fun playing it, but I'm definitely more a blue mage than anything else. I really love blue-red. Izzet colors are my favorite. So I sort of just quickly broke out my cards and then dived into another deck. So this deck doesn't have any special lands. We're just using forests and islands. So there's those ones, guys. Get those out of the way. Now the first sort of card that I want to talk about is Aether Herder. So I'm going for this energy mechanic with this deck. When he enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy. He's a 3/3 for 4, so 3 colorless and a green. Also has, when he attacks, you may pay 2. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature. So I was hoping to go sort of wide with this deck. I've got Hinterland Drake, so another sort of part of my attack piece. He's a 2/3 for 3, 2 colorless and a blue, has flying and can't block artifact creatures. That doesn't really matter though, because I was hoping to just be really aggressive with this guy. Next up we've got Riparian Tiger. He's a 4/4 for 5, 3 colorless and 2 green, has trample which is really good, and then when he enters the battlefield you get 2 energy. When he attacks you may pay 2 energy. If you do, he gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Now you've got to remember that trigger happens during your declare attackers phase, so you can't just go, oh, you're not blocking this guy, I want to make him a little stronger, or oh, this guy is now underpowered against your guy, I want to buff him up. That's not how it works, but it does sort of force your opponent to throw something in front of him. That trample mechanic just really can get him for some damage. Next up we've got Shipwreck Moray. He's a 0/5 for 4, 3 colorless and a blue. When he enters the battlefield you get 4 energy. Pay 1 energy, gets +2, -2 until end of turn. So this creature has a lot of utility. He can be a great defender, or you can sort of start to pick out their mid-range creatures with that 2 damage. And finally, I've got Aether Sweeper. He's a 1/2 for 2, colorless and a blue. It has flying. When Aether Sweeper enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy. When he attacks, you pay 2 energy. If you do, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. So I just wanted to have a lot of outs for my energy. I wanted to create it and then sort of be able to use it in a variety of ways. I didn't want to be restricted to just creating servos or just buffing my tiger. So onto the sort of quality cards I've got in the deck. First up is Walking Ballista. When he enters the battlefield, he's XX00. So with that X sort of mechanic there, you've got to put equal numbers into that. So 1 and 1, 2 and 2, etc. So for that X, or at his smallest, you put 2 mana into him, and he becomes a 1/1. He has pay 4, put a +1/+1 counter on Walking Ballista, and he has remove a +1/+1 counter from Walking Ballista. It deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So I really like the sort of utility in this card. He's a good menacing at the end of your turn. Was also in my other deck, just brought him over because I knew like the quality he sort of had. Always wanted to cast him for at least that 4 cost, because at 4 you're getting 2 +1/+1 counters, and then you're adding 1 +1/+1 counter with his 4 mechanic in there. This was a great way to finish out opponents, or pick off small creatures, or deal the extra damage that I may have needed to wipe out something that was a little above what I was attacking with. So I've got Narnum Cobra. Now this is a 2/1 for 2. You can pay a green, gains Death Touch until end of turn. This is just a great artifact creature. Really makes your opponent think when they're attacking. You just leave that 1 green mana up, and then they've really got to consider all their attacks. Do they really want to trade off one of their good creatures for your 2/1, for your 2-drop? So next up, I've got High Aspire Infusion. So this is a combat trick I was hoping to get a bit of utility out of. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. You get 2 energy. So this sort of empowers the rest of the deck in giving us energy, and sort of helps us get rid of one, like part of their board, giving that +3/+3. Can also use it late to get in for the extra damage you need to win, especially useful with Riparian Tiger. So next up I've got Untethered Express. He's a 4/4 for 4, has trample. When Untethered Express attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it, and you can crew it for 1, which is just great. Was also in my other deck alongside those vehicles. Now this card is just really good. instead of just getting pos on for attacking, he's getting counters, which means he can get real big real quick if your opponent doesn't deal with him immediately. Comes in at the 4-drop, so it does happen a little late, especially if your opponent has lots of little creatures on the board, but has that trample mechanic, which is great. They can't just chump block their way through this, they have to deal with it as a card. Next up, I've got Scrounging Bender. He's a 0/0 for 2, a colourless and a green. When he enters the battlefield, he enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may choose to move any number of +1/+1 counters from him onto target creature. So remember, as far as the game sort of goes, it goes untap, upkeep, draw. So after you've untapped your lands, you can choose, and before you draw, you can choose to move counters off of this guy and onto another guy. It does say any number of counters, so you can just move them one at a time, or both of them. Next up, I've got Bastion Inventor. Now this guy's pretty pricey. He's a 6-drop for a 4/4, but has that improvise mechanic built in. He's also got, so improvise is your artifacts can help cast this spell. Each artifact you tap after you've done activating mana abilities pays for 1. So those vehicles there, if I've got them out and no use for them, or I can't be aggressive with them at the time, I can use them to try and get this guy out. He also has a hexproof, so he can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. So that made him a bit harder to deal with. Remember, with hexproof, you can still target him with your own spells. It says opponent's control, so very relevant there. Next up, I've got Verdant Automatum. He's a 1/2 for 2, has pay 4, 3 colourless and a green. Put a +1/+1 counter on it. Now this is a good mana sink towards the end of the game. If your opponent doesn't deal with this, it can just get to be a bit out of control. Next up, I've got Unbridled Growth. It's a 1-drop, 1 green, has Enchant Land. Enchant Land has tap, add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool, so some great mana fixing there. This will be an excellent draft card, I reckon, just because it also has Sacrifice It, draw a card. So early on, when you don't get the mana that you want, you can cast this to sort of fix yourself up, and then as you start to come into the right colours towards the middle of the game, you can get rid of this card and then replace it with another one. Just really, really good card use there. So next up, I've got Watchful Automatum. He's 2/2 for 3, has pay 3, 2 colourless and a blue scry 1. Now that scry mechanic is just fantastic, gives you that card selection. Always wanting to have a look at the top of my library to pull something relevant. Nothing worse than getting late in the game there and pulling a land while you're looking for an answer to one of your opponent's sort of threats. Next up, I've got Rogue Refiner. Now, I really like this card. He's 3/2 for 3, a colourless, green and a blue. When he enters the battlefield, draw a card, you get 2 energy. So this sort of empowers the other creatures in our deck. He sort of replaces himself with that draw mechanic, and a 3/2 body is just great. Can deal with a lot of stuff. Next up, I've got Malfunction. I think this is just one of the most quality cards to come out of Kaladesh. It's a 4-drop, 3 colourless and a blue. Enchant artifact or creature. When it enters the battlefield, tap Enchanted Permanent. Enchanted Permanent doesn't untap during its control's untap step. So you can put this onto vehicles, you can put this onto their creatures. It's just a great way to deal with anything they've got going on. Also, with the tap effect, as opposed to can't attack and can't block, you also turn off tap abilities, which can be highly relevant as well. Now next up, I've got a new card from Aether Revolt, Treasure Keeper. He's a 3/3 for 4, and then essentially when he dies, he cascades. So when he dies, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card with converted mana cost 3 or less. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put all revealed cards not cast this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this guy's great in that you can pop him out, hopefully trade with another creature, and then get something else relevant out onto your field. Next up, we've got Metallic Rebuke. It's a 3-drop, 2 colourless and a blue, has Improvise, so you can use your artifacts to help pay for this. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 3. Now the ultimate advantage with this card is you can cast it for 1 blue. It's really going to make your opponents think if you're into those control sort of style of play, and it's just a great card. Next up, I've got Blossoming Defense. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains hexproof until end of turn. Just another quality card to come out of Kaladesh. +2/+2 is great, and hexproof is fantastic. So a bit of utility here. You can either use it to buff your creatures in defense or attack, or if your key component's getting removed, you can use this to give it hexproof, which is just fantastic. Happens at instant speed. Next up, I've got Aether Revolt. So return target permanent you control and target permanent you don't control to their owner's hands. So this was fantastic with the energy mechanic I had going on. I could pick up one of my creatures, drop them back out, generate myself some more energy, but also allowed me to take a threat off of the board. Happens at instant speed, so you can do it in their end step, so that you can set up or leave yourself mana up for your next turn. Appetite for the Unnatural. Now this one's a bit self-explanatory in the sort of artifact heavy landscape that we're sitting in. Here's a 3 cost, happens at instant speed. It's 2 colorless and a green. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, you gain 2 life. So just quality card there. Deals with any of the new vehicles that are out, any other sort of quality artifacts that are floating around. Deals with equipment. Just lots of targets for this guy at the moment. Next up is Natural Obsolescence. Obsolescence. I think that's a bit better, yeah. He's an instant speed, 2-drop, 1 colorless and 1 green. Put target artifact on the bottom of its owner's library. So again, another way to deal with a variety of cards, and you can usually with this card remove it from the game, which is just great. Going through your whole library is pretty tricky, but if they can't shuffle that library, then you've just taken that card out of contention for the rest of the game. And finally, just a single negate in there. He's 2-drop, so happens at instant speed, 1 colorless and a blue, counter target non-creature spells. So any of those other sort of removal effects, other counters that are trying to happen to us, just a great card there. So nothing too bomby in this second deck. Really, I was just trying to sort of establish my board state and then clear them out slowly. So I had a lot of fun at my Aether Revolt pre-release. I managed to go 1-1 with this one, so a draw, just because of the time limit and the style of deck I played against. And then I think I went 1-1 in my third game as well. Also coming up against a sort of control style, and we just ran out of time. And then finally in my fourth game I went 2-0, just because this is the kind of deck I play, and I got matched against an opponent that I play with regularly, so I had quite a few good reads on him. It was a, really come together for me, this deck in that game. So just let me know below how your pre-release went. I think I finished in the bottom half of my sort of pod, so I didn't go too well, but had a lot of fun while I was there and opened some cards I was looking for. Alright guys, you enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.